We had like own clothes days, and like all the teachers would be like, "Oh, what are you gonna wear for own clothes day?" And I'd go in like turquoise skinny jeans with zebra print on, like bright pink hair. There's a reason that I'm bald now, is because I just bleached it all the time. At first, it was very like clean white walls, a grey floor, and then like a couple of plants. But then over the years, I've got like, tiger print, and there's zebra print, and there's like troll dolls, there's Furbies. It's just like me as a scrapbook, but in 3D.
So everybody, we've got Sam.
Hi.
So Sam, we might as well welcome to the podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
Really great to have you. What a character you are.
Thanks. Thanks.
Can't wait to have this one. I've been looking forward to it all week, actually. But it might be worthwhile just introducing who you are.
So my name's Sam. I am a tattoo artist. I live in Warrington, and that's where the tattoo studio that I have is, on Ryland Street. And I'm just an all-round crazy guy.
You are?
Yeah.
Judging by your Instagram. What's your Instagram? Let's tell everybody straight away.
Which one? The business one. That's what we're focusing on. So
you can have a look at both if you want.
Sam Small Inc. on Instagram, but I used underscores instead of spaces because I'm quirky. And then I have a personal one, which is Smoke in Your Eye. And then again, we went for the underscores instead of spaces because quirky.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you see you, Sam, you are a character, but in a really it's not out there on purpose way. You are.
Yeah.
You are who you are. And you're really creative. This is probably where the tattooing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely been something that I've always felt comfortable with, is being creative. So I had to find a job that I could make that work for.
Yeah, and so we'll probably, hopefully, we'll try and find out how that talent came about. But having a small business in Warrington, there are so many talented people in Warrington we should discover, eh? They're everywhere. But taking the plunge to go and get that shop, how was that for you?
Difficult, definitely difficult. It's very overwhelming, I think, when you first open a business, because for me personally, like, I didn't have a lot of like pre-knowledge to that. I did do business studies in high school, but I failed it. So didn't really have an idea when it comes to things like spreadsheets, organization. That's not really my strong point. So a lot of it was just for vibes. Like, as if it felt right, I just did it. But I'm really grateful that I did, because obviously it's paid off.
One of the headlines I saw about you was playground entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Tattoo award-winning tattoo artist.
Yeah,
actually, to be fair, so let's have the shout out straight away. You are an award-winning tattoo artist, and you can sort of see the level of detail that you go to. Dot work in particular.
Yeah, no, I do love doing dot work.
You have a bit of a major in that.
Yeah, no, I definitely like doing more detailed things. So I think when I first started tattooing, especially in the studio that I apprenticed in, the artists were doing quite bold work. And I was told to sort of steer away from doing fine line, because for someone who doesn't tattoo, it's a lot more intricate. So if you do a line with like a boulder needle, it's like drawing with a Sharpie, so it comes out quite crisp, quite cartoony. But if you use a fine line, any slight little like deviation in the line's like really obvious. So it is definitely more time consuming and more specialist. But that's always been the style of art and drawings that I was more drawn to. So that's what I wanted to do with my tattoo work.
And so did you start off with a particular type of tattoo in mind? So would it be, or what I mean by this is was it portraits? Was it animals? Was it quirky cartoon type?
So I've never really been interested. I mean, I do really appreciate the artistry behind realism. I think it's very, very intricate. It's a very difficult thing. But I think that's a very specialist thing. Like, that's not something that I'm necessarily interested in.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that requires to look at a picture and then copy it exactly, and that's not something that I'm really interested in. So when I first started, it was a lot of little drawings that I did with little fine point pens that were like inspired by song lyrics or nature, like magic-y things. So I really wanted that to be the sorts of tattoos I was doing. And when I first started doing these drawings, I remember I was told that, that doesn't necessarily translate to tattoo. Like, you have to change it, you have to make it bolder, simplify it a little bit. So I think a little spite, kind of, I was like, well, no, I'm going to make this work on skin. If I can make it work on paper, then I'll find a way to make it work on skin.
So you were always good at art? I guess it's a natural given talent.
I think for me personally, like I believe that people are naturally better at things. But I think it's definitely when I was younger, I received more like positive reinforcement because like I was just naturally a little bit better than people my age. So I kept chasing that to get better and better and better. It's always been something that I've done in like my spare time. Um, I can't really imagine doing anything that wasn't creative. Like I think I have to be in a creative role.
I think that's evident
Yeah,
with yourself anyway. From some of the videos you have on Instagram,
yeah,
a lot of these things that you're doing, not even related to tattooing.
yeah.
You can see there's artistry in the way you think, well, how you present yourself,
Yeah.
and so was that you always like that as a kid?
Yeah, so especially in high school, I used to walk into we had like own clothes days, and like all the teachers would be like, "Oh, what are you gonna wear for own clothes day?" And I'd go in like turquoise skinny jeans with zebra print on, like bright pink hair. There's a reason that I'm bald now, is 'cause I just bleached it all the time. Bracelets all the way up to my elbows, a Hello Kitty backpack. Like I've always been really interested in like doing something different. I never wanted to wear like the Hollister pants, and I wanted to wear something different, be different.
Yeah. And did you have any icons back in those days? So,
Yeah.
so did you? Yeah, you must want to be around. Maybe someone inspired you. You modeled yourself on somebody.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was younger, there was definitely like people who were like on like MySpace and Tumblr who were male born, or like, you know, they were male people that then acted more feminine, or they had like makeup on, they wore like feminine clothes. Like to me, I thought that was like really like interesting.
Mm.
I wanted to do that. Um I think definitely like Lady Gaga, when you look at like her earlier stuff in her music videos, it's all like big outfits. It's got storylines to it. I've always been really drawn to those sorts of people, like Katy Perry, like old Katy Perry though, when she had all like the big loud music videos and stuff. That's definitely something that like sort of inspired me.
It's always good to have role models one way
Yeah,
or the other, and they don't necessarily just have to be. This is how you need to behave in public. It's
yeah.
about what really switches me on. Who do I really like?
I think there's a lot of boxes, isn't there? It's like, you know, you have to wear certain things or act in a certain way, and I've never really subscribed to that sort of narrative. I've always wanted to just do things that I like. So if people say it doesn't work, then I'm like, well, I like it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, well, you are who you are,
Yeah,
and you can wear what you want to wear.
yeah,
I remember somebody saying to me once, "Why are you wearing those jeans for?" And I said, "Well, when you become my fashion expert,
yeah,
I'll employ you and let you know.
yeah.
Until then, I'll wear what I want."
No, 100%, 100%. You need to just like, you know, wear what makes you comfortable. Like, be your best version of yourself. Like, whoever you want to be when you like look in the mirror, just be that person.
So, the tattoo shop that you have,
Yeah.
is it just you on your own, or do you have
Yeah,
somebody
so
else
it
in there?
is just me at the minute. I opened it myself, and then we
Well done
did. Thank
for
you,
doing that.
thank you. It was definitely hard. It was
When was
definitely
this?
hard. So I'm gonna say 3 to 4 years ago now. It was in between the two lockdowns. We just had the first lockdown, and then I took over the lease in the first lockdown. We opened up very, very briefly, and then we were in the second lockdown. So obviously, like forged in hellfire, not a good time to be starting a business. I'd be ringing up the people to like set up the utilities, and they were like, "Oh, what's your date of birth again?" And then when I tell them, they're like, "Oh, you're brave, opening a business at this time." So definitely not a great time to do it.
I remember, it's not relating to tattoos, by the way, but there was a restaurant that was getting opened in Stockton Heath, I think it was.
Mm,
I think it had gone from being a Spanish tapas place to, I think it was called Maison Fleur or something. It was going to be a French tapas place. And I felt really sorry for them, Sam, because they were putting a lot of effort
yeah.
and sweat and tears and a lot of personal money and dreams go into these things.
Mm,
And the second they got it done, lockdown.
yeah.
Guess what happened a year after?
Closed. I think it's so sad because a lot of businesses, especially like independent businesses, they did suffer from that, and it was really quite sad to see. Like I'm quite lucky that obviously that wasn't me, but there was definitely a lot of independent people that struggled, and it is very, very sad.
How did you get? How did you keep it going?
Hard work, like a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So I
Did you have to do freelance sort of?
I didn't have any income stream, obviously, because there was no money coming into the business. So it was just everything that I did went back in. I was selling prints on Etsy, anything that I could do to get some money. And then at the time, because I'd not been tattooing for that long, I wasn't entitled to any of the grants or anything.
Mhm.
So I didn't get any lump sum of money. So it was all money that was my personal money. And then I did go on to Universal Credit as well. So obviously you can imagine that's not a lot of money to be running a business, but I was quite lucky that I made it through. I was taking deposits for when we reopened. I was doing the prints and everything. And then when we did reopen, at first it was like month to month, just getting by. And then a little bit into it, it started getting more secure. There was more like money left over at the end, so it was more guaranteed for the month after. But yeah, just like a lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of worry, but it all paid off. So
That's what it's like, you know,
yeah,
and I think that one of the threads around when we're talking about small business owners, it can be feast or famine,
yeah,
and but you have to try and keep going if you possibly can, in order to be able to. You have to ride the storm. You're never going to be hyper successful straight
no,
away.
no,
You
it
have to
is.
work
It's a
at it.
lot of groundwork for sure.
Yeah. So when people come to your shop, you obviously would have had a vision
Yeah.
for it. Do you want to describe what the vision was?
So at first, the vision was I wanted it to be very minimalistic, very clean. I find that the tattoo studios that I'd been into is like dark walls and there's skulls on the walls and like the windows are blacked out and there's like motorbikes everywhere. And that's just not me. That's never been me. So I was like, well, I'm going to show off my personality. At first, it was very like clean white walls, a grey floor, and then like a couple of plants. But then over the years, I've got like, tiger print and there's zebra print and there's like troll dolls, there's Furbies. It's just like me as a scrapbook, but in 3D.
Yeah. Well, it's your place. It's
Yeah.
your gaff.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So when people are going to come to see you, they're going to get Sam.
Yeah. Well, there's a cardboard cutout of me, life-size cardboard cutout in a cowboy outfit. So that's what greets you when you first walk in the door.
Yeah. So what's the sticker all about then?
So
on.
the stickers, right? So it started off. I made these stickers that are just my head, and they've got like the Instagram and stuff on them. And the original plan was I was going to get a couple of them printed. I was going to hide them around in town, and if you find all of them, you get like a discount or something, just like a fun little game.
Yeah.
But then when I got them, I didn't realize I'd ordered that many of them. So I just started giving them out with like free tattoos. And then I get people coming in going, I've seen your head on such a lamppost. I've seen it on this bin. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get the blame for this. Like, I can't be responsible for where people put these stickers. Like,
No.
I'm not a vandal, but that's just how it is. My head's all over Warrington now.
Yeah. So you're probably on a lamppost somewhere.
Definitely.
On Sankey Street.
Or like a dog leaving bin somewhere in Sankey Valley. That'll be perfect.
Well, the funny thing is when you arrived here, just before the podcast, you saw yourself on the Warrington
Worldwide, yeah.
On the
yeah.
magazine
I got
on front
packed,
cover.
didn't I?
and you're there.
Yeah, in my my little sequins.
Is it July's episode?
Yes, July's
edition.
Yeah.
That's it. So so congratulations on the business.
Thank you.
Especially for the years that you've had it, and it is going really strong. And I think being new, and this is advice to any people who have their own business, you don't have to form a particular model. Be you first.
Yeah.
That's what sells it.
100%.
Yeah. And then, but the quality of your work, though, Sam, is not to be underestimated.
Thank you.
Right? It is incredibly intricate. Do you want to just describe the process that you would go through in order to provide something on someone's arm, which is with them forever?
So, I mean, when it comes to custom work, which I do a lot of, people will say, like, because people tend to get tattoos for like really meaningful events in their life. Like, not that that's the only reason. I do a lot of flash. I even have a thing called mystery tattoos where you pay £50 and you get a random tattoo. So, there's a wide spectrum of reason why people get tattoos and what they get done. But when people come in and it's a meaningful tattoo, like say they've lost a loved one or a pet, something for their partner, they have an idea in their head of what they would like, and it's my job to take that idea, talk to them, and then put it on paper, and then eventually obviously put it on the skin. And I've always found that when people are describing what they want, I can sort of see it in my own head. And like 9 times out of 10, it's spot on. Like the client's like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, or that's better than I imagined. So I do really enjoy that process of being able to give that to them. But I mean, I used to do everything traditionally, so I'd buy pens and I'd buy paper and I'd spend ridiculous amounts of money on that. I now do most of it, the design process anyway, digitally, and then it goes onto the stencil, and then obviously that the tattoo itself. But the full process, I mean, I really do enjoy doing custom work. No tattoos that I do are the same, and I think that's what's special about tattoos is it's not just going to get hung on a wall or like shoved in a filing cabinet somewhere. It's going to be on someone's skin. They're going to be looking at it. Other people are going to be looking at it. It's really sentimental and quite intimate.
Mm. But that's true regardless of what. And also, the intimacy is actually quite interesting because you are working in very close quarters.
Yeah.
And it is something you're doing for somebody.
Yeah.
Forever.
It's definitely like I see a lot of my clients like I've got people that come in that have been coming to me for years, and like they're my friends. Like they've been coming to me since like I first opened, and I've done all these different tattoos for them. But obviously, you spend hours sometimes on like bigger tattoos, so I don't just sit there in silence. Like I get to know them. I know about their partners and their jobs and their like hobbies. You do definitely form like relationships with these people, especially when they're coming back over the years, and then it's nice to see them again and get a catch up and see what they're doing now.
I think that's the thing is that once you find somebody you trust them. Do you understand what I mean? It's like people will always go back to the people they trust the most.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what you want, isn't it?
It's special. I think it's definitely special that people trust me to do these things, and then obviously to keep coming back. Like it is very nice, and it makes me feel really like happy.
Yeah, good. No, good. And so, you are award winning. So do you want to? I think that was it. It was broadcast in Warrington Garden, I think. At the time,
it
wasn't
was
it?
the.
Do you want to describe what that was?
So it was the Best of Awards, I think it's called, and it was a competition where they asked originally on the first post to nominate your favorite tattoo artist. They did like a bunch of other awards for like best nail salon, best bakery. I think every single sector or different category of business had their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I was nominated quite a few times in the original post. So then it went to the second round where I think they shortlisted maybe 12, maybe 10, 12 people. And then when I got the phone call saying I'd won, I couldn't believe it. Like I'd posted a couple of things on the page and I'd said like, oh, if you want to give me a little vote, like I'd really appreciate it. But I don't think I ever really expected to win. So when I got the message saying I'd won, I was like, oh, like what do I do now? That's crazy.
Yeah. And so what happens when you win something like that? Does your business profile go up?
So I definitely noticed an increase in people messaging on Facebook. So obviously with it being predominantly on Facebook that it was all advertised and people were commenting, I definitely noticed an increase on the Facebook page. I tend to look more at Instagram. So I definitely focus a lot more of my attention on Instagram and TikTok because I'm Gen Z. So that's where I live.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I definitely did notice an increase. And I think for me personally, it wasn't really about the increased business. It was more like it was really validating that I'd been seen and people are recognizing the work that I'd put in. And I just felt really good about it.
Yeah, I think that's right. There is a validation.
Yeah.
And it's hard work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, long hours.
Yeah. And, but also there's it's almost like a watermark of trust. Because, not everybody has that opportunity, and you get that trust now. So not only are you award winning, you are trusted. It's validated, perhaps how you might think as well. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So it revalidates. Yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I must be doing the right thing.
100%.
So, in terms of the favorite types of tattoos you do, they have to float your boat, I'm assuming. But if somebody said, "I do want some realism," would you do it?
So
or would you recommend they go somewhere else? Because I think that's fair.
It's one of those like I wouldn't ever attempt a tattoo that I'm not comfortable with. Like I will only do a tattoo that I know that I can do well, and if I can't do it 100%, then I'm not gonna give it a go because it's not one of those things where you can just have a try at it. Like you need to be confident in your ability. So I'd feel like no shame in saying like that's not my style, that's not my preferred style. So here's someone who does specialize in that, and then recommend someone else. I think as tattoo artists, but like in all businesses, we should be bigging up other people in the industry. It's not a competition. We're not all out for ourselves. it's about community and sort of lifting each other up.
Yeah, do you know what? There's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
It's one of the things we were hoping to do with the podcast. Actually, like bring independent businesses and people together. You can maybe trade off with each other. Matt and Dan Bonner, who won the first podcast we did, for example, they say go try other gyms.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, and you'll enjoy it, and then come back to us when probably on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, but go to that gym on a Thursday if that's what you want to do. You got to work together sometimes.
No, 100%. Like we're all in the same boat, aren't we? So
yeah. So what's the community like then around the tattoo business? Certainly in Warrington, what's it like?
I mean, I'd say we're quite not isolated, but we are quite like independent. Like it's not very heard of that a lot of tattoo artists speak to each other. And I mean, specifically in Warrington, you find that there's like a bit of a cycle. So every couple of years, like a bunch of new studios will open, and then some of them will close, and then like more will open. So I don't think, other than like the people that have been around for a long time, a lot of us are quite like isolated in our own little bubbles. But I've got quite a lot of friends in Manchester, Liverpool, Coventry that are also tattoo artists. So we support each other. And then there's a couple of tattoo studios in Warrington, for example. Like I don't do a lot watercolor. Watercolor is a good example. So Zuzia at Wildcats, really good at a watercolor.
What's Instagram?
Don't ask me off the top of my head. Yeah.
Just putting that in front of it.
Yeah. So Wildcats, like I've had quite a few tattoos done by them myself. So if someone comes in specifically asking for a style that I know that would suit them, I'll recommend them to go there. But yeah, like I think we do need to be looking out for each other. It's not. There's plenty of people that want tattoos. Like it's not like we're all falling over each other trying to get the same clients.
Yeah, and assume that the age range is wide.
100%.
Yeah, it's funny, I don't mind sharing with you. I've got one or two myself, but I didn't have them until much later on, probably into my mid-40s. In fact, it was my mid-40s, and there was a reason for it. I was on the sentimental family side.
Yeah.
Bit to it, and so it made perfect sense to me that I would do something like that, but I probably wouldn't have thought too much about it.
Yeah.
Leading up to there, you see what I mean? I had a reason why I did it, so I'm assuming it's the same for everybody that you see.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got. I always see it as like a pattern. So when people come in for the first tattoo, they're really like nervous, they're anxious, they don't know, it's the great unknown, isn't it? Like, is it going to hurt? What if I don't like it? Like, there's all these different variables. But then I see a pattern where someone will come in when they're like 18, 19, get the first tattoo, and it'll be something really sentimental, like a family member's birth flower, or maybe like a memorial tattoo, something that's really special. And then a lot of these people do end up coming back and going, I just want an elephant because I like it. Like, there's two different types of people. I mean, I've got a mixture of both myself. Like, I've got some that are more meaningful, and then I've got like a sloth in a teacup. Like, there's just
why not
random things.
Yeah,
just I wanted it.
To the beans.
Yeah. I ain't got one of them. I'm not Ed Sheeran, but like potentially.
Yeah. Colour in black and white.
I do a lot of black and we say black and grey in the industry. But I do a lot of like darker stuff with the greys. A lot of neutral. I do enjoy colour. I think colour's really nice. Colour takes a little bit longer. And because the coloured inks are more expensive, it ends up being a little bit pricier. I think also people tend to prefer black and grey tattoos. It fits more people's styles and aesthetics. But me personally, again, I've got one side of my body that's all black and grey, and then one side that's all colour, because I couldn't commit to one different aesthetic, so I needed to just have them all, but then organise chaos.
And if listen, these things are personal. I think it goes to what you said about, I'm going to have a flower for my grandmother, and now I'm going to have a whatever it is,
elephant in a pie hat.
Yeah, whatever it is. And a lot of, if you really want it, a lot of people can talk you out of it or say, well, I wouldn't have that. Why would you have that? Well, because I really like it. Don't have that.
No.
But just do it if that's...
Just do it.
Yeah.
YOLO, you only live once. Like, just live your best life.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's obviously a colourfulness around the artistry that you do. It's not, and I do recognise, as you've said, that there's many tattoo artists around, but again, it's a very similar format, right?
Yeah.
Which is, look, you've got a shop, So you've got some overhead. You've got to kit it out the way you might have to go basic at first, and then you can afford to do something with it later. You are on your own, and you're relying on footfall or something else.
Yeah.
How did that go for anybody who's listening, perhaps who has their own shop or particularly tattoos? How did you generate the footfall and the comms to people in order to be able to come and find you?
So I had a very small client base when I first opened up from my apprenticeship. So that's just like people that I'd met in the couple of years that I was training in another studio. But I think for me personally, like I saw that there was a big gap in the market. Like there was, like I was saying before, it's like black walls, heavy metal music. Like that's not me. But yeah, I am a person who wants tattoos, who gets tattoos, interested in them. So if I was to create a space that I'm happy with, that I'm comfortable with, other people who are like me will then feel comfortable and come to me to get tattoos. And then I'm also quite privileged that I am quite a people person, like I'm very extroverted. So I don't find it difficult to talk to new people, to meet new people. But I think it's definitely about like being yourself and finding your people, find your clients. Like don't change to fit like the market, like change the market to fit you. Like that's the advice I'd give.
Yeah, so you could try and go to Safeway and go, look, here's some pictures of some zigzags and
Yeah.
God knows what else. Brilliant. But that's not what you're going to get.
No.
Just describe it to me. So you create stencils?
Yeah, so again, I used to hand stencil everything. So the process of that is I draw it on a piece of paper with very expensive pens and paper. I was spending wages in like the range and hobbycraft.
Okay.
But then I'd draw it all out. I'd maybe spend like a couple of hours drawing the design. And then someone would come in and go, "Oh, I love it, but like instead of having peonies, could we have roses?" And I'd be like, "Oh, now I've got to redraw the whole thing. It's taken me hours." And then once I'd agreed the design, you then get, it's like tracing paper, and you had to draw every single line again with this like stencil stuff underneath. That then becomes a stencil. So like now I'll do it all on the iPad, which is way easier because if someone says, "Can we just switch those flowers out?" No problem, 30 seconds. And then I've got a printer that prints it off. So
Right.
saving time, it's like way more efficient now.
Yeah. And then you take that, and again with any other stencil, I guess you position it in the right way and say, right, this is where it's going to go. Are you ready to go?
That was for me the most nerve-wracking part because like when I was a kid, you know when you get like Kinder Egg toys, for example, and you get the little stickers that go on it, I could not for the life of me put them on. Like I couldn't commit to it. Like even stickers that you just get from like a toy, I wouldn't want to put those on a wall because in my head I'm like, well, once I've used that sticker, I can never use it again. Like that's permanent. So I really struggled with that. But then you have to get over it. You know what I mean? Like you have to like really get to it. And I'm pretty OCD when it comes to placing stencils. So I'll put out all these little guidelines. I'll make sure it sits perfectly on the skin. That's definitely something that I fixate on a lot is the placement because once it's there and it's tattooed, you can't move it.
One of the things I've noticed is sometimes you see misplaced tattoos for whatever reason. And where I've noticed it is actually on the forearm.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it depends how you move your arm about. But there must be a line that you must see, which probably goes from the center of the wrist. For those who are listening, I'm pointing at my arm, by the way.
Yeah.
Right up to the center of the elbow. But if I did that and you tattooed it, thinking it was on, it would be off center.
So
there's quite a
with the
trick with
forearm
that,
in
isn't there?
particular, like I remember seeing this video a couple of weeks ago and I can't stop thinking about it. So it's about the two bones in your arm and how one of them stays straight, but then the other one literally crosses over it. And for me, like I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, so I was just mortified that my bones are like crisscrossing in my arm. But no, definitely, especially with the arm, like there's a lot of movement in that skin. So there's certain places on the body where the skin moves and warps quite a lot. So I tend to go for in a position that you'd be standing naturally on a day-to-day basis. Like say if you're standing in a line in Asda, you want the tattoos to look straight. If you start throwing up poses and doing little like signs and posing for pictures, it might be slightly crooked, but that's just like the nature of the placement. So I'll either try to advise that we move it slightly so it warps less, or you wouldn't put like a straight line on a forearm, for example, because it's going to be obvious it's warped. But if it was more of like a curved flowers, butterflies, something like that, it's not going to show as much.
Right.
So there's definitely technique. There is definitely technique.
Yeah, and So how do you get? But how do you get that right though? So do you measure it? What do you do, or can you just tell
So
by the eye that, especially being an artist of your capability, you can sort of tell.
yeah, so I'll go off a couple of things. Like one is if it's visibly in the right position.
Mm.
So if you like standing, looking at it, natural standing position, does that look straight? Does that look balanced? Is it even? Sometimes I'll use specific bones in the body, like you were saying. I'll go off like that. That does have its own problems though, because obviously everyone's bones aren't the same. Like I've had it a couple of times where I've been stenciling like a back tattoo, a spine tattoo, and if the client's like got a bit of scoliosis, it's not gonna work. So you have to do it visibly straight. Or I had a client who had a slight bend in their arm, so we had to move the stencil to it looked balanced.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely like things that you have to do in the moment, but generally you just go off the vibes. That's the word of the day. Hashtag
Right.
vibes.
Hashtag vibe. Why not? We'll get that in. Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, because that again, with it being permanent, you need it to at least look right. And of course,
Yeah.
I was actually part of a conversation where it said, do you have the whatever it is facing downways, or say it was your kids, or
Yeah,
it's like
this is
it
a
is.
big one.
Do you have it round this way
Mm,
so that when you bend your arm, you're looking at it? So to the listener, I'm bending my arm forward. I'm sort of looking at my arm there. I want to see the faces in the
yeah.
right way, or do you have it the other way around?
This is a big
What's the
controversial.
principle?
Oh, so this is definitely different from person to person and tattoo artist to tattoo artist. Without grassing myself in, I'm on the side of you always have it facing to everybody else. So I do get clients come in and they'll go, I want this name and I want it facing towards me so I can read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the sentiment, but with my experience, I've seen people will get a name on the wrist facing towards them, and then they'll add further pieces in the future, and all of those will be facing the other way. So it just looks a little bit mismatch. I've had quite a few clients come in expressing regrets about having it facing towards them. And I mean, you're going to look at it for what, a couple of months, and then it's just another part of your body. You forget it's there. But everybody else that you see is going to see it. And as much as it is for you, everybody else is looking at it. And if you have to turn your head and go, oh, what does that say? It's just a conversation you can avoid by having it the correct way, in quotation marks.
Yeah, so on my wrist, I would have something like Yibbit and Ilol
Yeah,
rather than Ollie and Toby,
yeah,
because that's the way it would look in the end.
yeah.
Okay, so you can provide the right guidance for the right reasons.
Yeah, 100%. Like I always give people my advice if they ask for it, but at the end of the day, like it's your body, it's your tattoo. Like I'm not gonna force you to have something that you don't want. I can definitely recommend, but I'm definitely not gonna force you to change your mind. Like we were saying before, like if you want something, you get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there is some great designs. We'll show them actually, partly part of the YouTube
Yeah.
piece, so we can take some clips if you don't mind off Instagram, so you can sort of see the different types of commissions that you've had. Did you call them commissions? Don't know. Are they
I mean, you could call it a commission.
requests? Don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, but it's arty, isn't it?
Commission. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That sounds fancy. Commission.
Yeah,
I was
well,
commissioned to
we'll
do this
it. You're
piece. Yeah,
commissioned to do that. Yeah. That lion.
brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you. You can have that.
Thank you.
It's all right. So listen. So you have those different types. Is there a trend now? The reason why I'm asking you about it is because probably back in my day, like 20 years ago, when I was a young whippersnapper, lots of tattoos all joined together, all very big or whatever else. And what I'm spotting is smaller tattoos with lots of white space behind them now, or even just lined tattoos.
Yeah.
Is that what's going on now?
So, I mean, there's definitely trends. I think it's like anything else, like, fashion trends, music trends, like they do go through a cycle. You definitely have things like neo-traditional now, which are reminiscent of old school Sailor Jerry tattoos. And again, it's different for everyone, but there's definitely trends. I think, like you're saying, it's more towards fine line, delicate things. I think another contributor to that is that a lot more women are getting tattooed now. Like a lot of young women are getting tattooed, whereas maybe back in the day it wasn't as many. But don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure the statistics of it is that there's a lot more women getting tattooed now than men.
Right. Okay.
So I think that's definitely a contributor to the more like fine line, more delicate, which I'm all for because obviously that's my specified interest, like my preference.
Yeah, and I wonder whether or not, without having to sort of try and colour stuff in and everything, all the white space, it kind of looks, it's there but not there.
Yeah.
You can still see the skin and the body and everything else. It's not blindly in your eyes. That you've got this massive tattoo. You can see a lot of skin, so it's probably less intrusive is the wrong word, but do you understand what I mean?
I think it is quite misleading because, like before I was tattooing, I'd see those tattoos and go, "Oh, that's really simple. Like it doesn't take any effort to do that. Like anyone can just do an outline." But then since actually tattooing, you realise that these more shaded pieces, the things that have like a lot more detail in, they, for me personally, like I find them a lot easier because you can just do a bunch of detail and it looks nice. Whereas when you're doing these little fine line, really simple things, every single little micro pigment of ink needs to be perfectly placed. Otherwise, it's so obvious. But I mean, I do enjoy them. I enjoy doing script, like people's names, handwriting. I do a lot of tattoos where people bring in greeting cards from lost loved ones. They get those tattooed, and I think that's really nice. Paw prints, like pets' paw prints, and again, they'll bring in like a photocopy of the dog's paw or the cat's paw, and do that. So those sorts of things I really enjoy too.
Quite like the idea of doing that, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice.
Yeah, because we've got, it's only two, our dog, but I had no idea you could love a dog.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I had no clue. I didn't really get on with dogs until Sherlock came along.
I love the name Sherlock. Brilliant.
Because he's like so nosy. And but I would do that. I would absolutely do that because you have that connection with him. So I can understand why people would do it. I think there's one of my friends. I think he's got his dog on his shoulder, and I thought, why would you do that? But if you understand animals,
yeah. See, I'm more of a cat person myself, but I would so get my cat tattooed. Like you can tell I'm a cat person because I'm covered in hair and glitter today.
So that's what it is.
my daily struggle.
Yeah, fur and hair.
Yeah,
that's a new one. Hair everywhere. Yeah. So look, just in relation to when you trained, do you mind if we just talk about your training?
Yeah.
So you'd obviously would people have said that you were gregarious at school, Sam, or you?
Can we define gregarious?
Gregarious as in, it sounds like you're out there with your fashion.
Yeah.
You're you. Right? So that's that. But I was wondering whether or not you were introvert or extrovert.
I'm very, very extroverted.
Very extrovert.
So,
and you always were extrovert.
Yeah. So I think like since I came out of the womb, I've always been quite outspoken.
Okay.
I've always been on like the right side though. Like I've been standing up for like the little person. But in school, I remember like, let's see. I think I started high school in maybe like 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
Sometime around there. It still wasn't like as inclusive as it is now. So I mean, I'd argue with teachers about like, equal rights, and I'd be putting my 2 pence in about everything. I'd be walking around with like my bright pink hair. And I'd say quite.
But I don't think that you were being purposefully rebellious though, Sam.
No.
I'm not getting that from you, because we did have purposely rebellious people at my school, but they were doing it on purpose to be seen and to annoy everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what you were doing.
I've always just wanted to do like me, you know what I mean? Like, so I liked the pink hair. I liked the Hello Kitty backpack. I didn't want to be pushed into a box. So in my school in particular, they had like a uniform book where you had to follow strict guidelines, and I'd sit there and be like, well, it doesn't say anything about women's hair in this one, but it says the boys aren't allowed to have the hair past the collar. So I'd sort of go for it and try and find little loopholes and stuff because that's what I wanted. But no, it's never really been about trying to cause controversy. It's more that I just want to live the way that I want to live, and there's plenty of other people that are just like me that want to do the same.
Yeah, which is fair. So did you find? So I don't want to go off track a little bit, but it's just come into my head. When hashtagging, you've got some.
I love a hashtag.
Oh my God, you got some fantastic phrases, dude. Honestly, but did you find that was like a new, like
opening
for you? That because people weren't hashtagging anything before, were they? And these little phrases came out and allowed you to be able to do it. Was that like I feel like
hashtags are sort of on the way out now. Like, I mean, I remember when I first started, this is it, like, you got to stay relevant. Like, I'll get these people coming in that are like 18, 19, and I sit there and I'm like, I need to know what's like in now. Like I need to know
Yeah.
because I need to be modern. I need to move with the times. Like, I'm so scared that I'm gonna be this dinosaur that just sits there and like gets stuck and gets comfortable. Like I always want to be trying new things and the new thing. I mean hashtags in particular. Like I remember when hashtags were first coming out on like Instagram when that was like new. And everything it'd be like hashtag microphone, hashtag podcast, hashtag water, like everything would be hashtagged, whereas now it's more specific. So I found like my group of people through hashtags, people who are looking for inclusive LGBT specific tattoo artists. They find me through hashtags. I've been quite lucky on TikTok that I've found a lot of new clients through TikTok. I think you get the privilege of seeing someone's personality on a video that you don't necessarily get on a photo. So that's definitely a good avenue. And for other businesses, I would recommend things that are more video content like Reels, TikToks. It gives like more of an insight into your business and then you as a person, which is like what we were saying, that's what you need to be driving home with your business because that's what attracts people to you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, by the way, what is it then if it's not hashtags now? Do we know?
Don't ask me because I'm not a social media
Yeah,
manager.
we're going
Wait,
to
let me
find
think.
out.
I think it is. No, it's gone.
Is that because of TikTok? So TikTok's sort of driving a different.
Yeah, so TikTok came out, and again, like I'm not an expert on this, so don't quote me. But TikTok came out, and it sort of revolutionized social media in the way that it's not just a picture anymore. With Instagram, when it first started, it was very curated, perfect. Everything was neat, pristine. It all had like a cohesive theme to it. Whereas Instagram allows you to be more chaotic. It doesn't have to have any sort of pattern. And I think it's a lot more personal. Like Instagram, when it first started, felt very put on. It felt like this is a version that you're trying to express to the world. And I think it is still a little bit like that now. Whereas TikTok's a lot more grounded. You don't necessarily have to have a lot of followers to get that reach, to get those people watching your videos. It's just a lot more real for me.
There's a lot to be said about that because I was talking to, I think it was Kieran Driscoll. His podcast is coming on just before yours, and he was just talking about the aesthetic nature. So he's a bodybuilder, right? And of course, all people see maybe on Instagram is the final result. Yeah. And so, I mean, if you can take that another way, which might be someone's then got a big house, or whatever you're aspiring to be, I guess, fair play to everybody, but you don't see the pain behind getting there.
Yeah, the struggle.
You only see the I just want that. You don't see the struggle, do you? That's absolutely right. So therefore, Instagram can still have that almost accidentally, really, which is. In order to be able to get there, whatever there is, there are a series of steps that you'll need to go through. You didn't just suddenly become, Sam, a award-winning tattoo artist. What you did, you had a process, you had a gift. The reason why I'm saying that is because in order to be able to get at something, you need to work at it still. It doesn't matter if you're gifted or not. People only see the outcome. So Instagram kind of has that accidental outcome still, right? I think. It's like with my skateboarding business, it's the same thing. You see loads of people riding the skateboards, but they don't see the 10 years of pressing every board, and getting them breaking and before you eventually get there and people are riding them all over the place now.
I mean, I'm lucky that when I was 7, there was no Instagram because I got on a skateboard once and I fell on my face and I never got one again. Like, one and done.
Result. So that's it. So just around the beginning of your career, Sam. So, you made your mind up to be a tattoo artist. Was that something you'd always wanted to do?
So, I wanted to be a scientist at first. When I was a kid, I used to draw all these inventions that I was going to invent, and I'd just sit there with a lot of my crayons and my felt tips. And I genuinely thought that being a scientist would be like, so I'll just like wake up in the morning, I'll just like create a sentient robot, like no biggie. In the afternoon, just make a tablet that stops people from dying, like all in a day's work. And then when I got to high school and I realised how much goes into it, and some people spend like their entire working career like on a theory, or that just wasn't for me. So I was like, well, we need a change in goals now. And I was selling like sweets and chocolates and stuff in school, like, disapproving of the teachers, but whatever. And I was like, I want to be a business person. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do that. And then obviously with the drawings of the inventions, I was good at drawing. I enjoyed drawing. And then at the time, I was getting into more like alternative fashion. A lot of people in the scene had like tattoos. So I was like, well, I want to do that.
How old were you then?
Oh, 12, 13
Yeah.
maybe when I first started thinking
Right.
about it.
Okay.
And then I got my apprenticeship when I was 18. So in the time in
Where was
between.
that at, mate? So
Oh.
yeah. So how did you get to your apprenticeship?
So I did a portfolio. I spent a long time on that portfolio, like so long. So I had this big like black leather book that I'd carry around with me, and I'd fill it with all these drawings. Like I was saying, like all these expensive papers and pens, and trying to do all these different drawings. Like that consumed so much of my life when I was just trying to make this portfolio. And then just going into tattoo studios and being like, can I show you my portfolio? I had some good feedback. I had some feedback that was like, maybe you need to include more of this. And then I eventually got a apprenticeship at a tattoo studio in Latchford that's unfortunately closed now. But I worked there for a couple of years. And a lot of it is just like you're helping out around the shop. You're doing cleaning, you're going and getting food from the shop. You're buying things. Like it's a lot of like assistance roles. But then through that, obviously you're in the industry, you're surrounded by people who are tattooing, and you start practicing on like fake skins, still working on your portfolio. And then from years, because I think a lot of tattoo artists, if there's any tattoo artists listen to this, like they'll know that the apprenticeship is a struggle. Like it's hard work. And I think that really weans out people that really want it and people that just think they want it, because it is a big push. And then obviously if it pays off, it's worth it. Like it's quite rewarding. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle when you're an apprentice.
So you try and do you try? Sorry, I'm going to start that again. But do you try and understand what it's like to tattoo on skin during your apprenticeship?
It's a lot of theory. Like there's a lot of theory. So you learn about the machine, you learn about the needles, you practice your technique with your hand on paper. So maybe a paintbrush, for example. Because the thing about tattooing is if you draw on like a table, the table stops the pen. So it will not go any further than the table. Whereas a body or skin, it moves, it's different. Different people have different skin textures. Some people may have scarring or conditions. There's lots of different variants when it comes to skin, and people move, people breathe, people bleed. There's a lot of things that you don't and you can't really train for. So when you first start, like my first tattoo was one that I did myself. Set everything up, cleaned everything up. First day of my tattoo apprenticeship, we're going to tattoo ourselves now, Sam. And I was like, oh, no problem, no problem. And I remember I stenciled out this big rose thing on my leg, and at the last minute I chickened out, so I did this little simple black heart on my ankle. And then I got a bit brave, so I went over it again, and now it's quite a fat little heart on my ankle. But I've kept that. I've never touched it up. I've never adjusted it. Because it's a nice little memory, like this is where we started and this is where we are now, and that's why I've got the black heart as the logo for the tattoo studio. It's like a little callback to that. Yeah.
Right. So it's a back to
And
that.
all of my posts, it's like little black heart emojis. It's like a little reminder of like
That's
where you
really
started.
interesting. Isn't that funny that's sort of the heart of your business, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like where it all started, day one.
Wow. So so when you did that to yourself, right? I can't think of anything like worse doing that to myself.
Yeah, I mean,
It must kill. Were you surprised at what it felt like?
well, it was difficult because obviously you're trying to do a tattoo, and it's also the first time, so you have no idea. So, like I was saying, with people coming in age 18 and they're scared, they're nervous. Like, is it going to hurt? Is it going to bleed? Like, they don't know. That's where I was at, but I was holding the tattoo machine, so. Oh, it was a lot of emotions, and then like I say, like, I went over it once, and it looked quite crisp, and I was like, I'm just gonna adjust that top little bit, and I went over it again, and now I've got this little blobby heart on my ankle, but I still love it. Like I think it's brilliant.
Well, there's a story to it. Why not? Remember what you said before about, well, I really like it.
Yeah,
might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I love it.
I get clients come in sometimes and they've got like a little line work heart on their ankle. I'm like, oh my God, we got matching bestie. Like,
Yeah.
it's quite a popular place to have like a little line work heart is like wrist or ankle. So every time I
Okay.
see it, I'm like, we're in this little unknown friend group.
That's it, yeah. Little nudge
Little
like
click.
that.
Little
Yeah,
click.
absolutely.
That's it.
So you got through your apprenticeship,
Mm.
yeah, and you were like, I'm definitely doing this for a living.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a couple of moments like in the early days where I'd sit there and I'd get so worked up and stressed because with tattooing, like you can't make mistakes. There's not really room for anything that's not perfect. Like you have to be on the ball every single day. You can't have a bad day and just mess someone's tattoo up. So that used to give me a lot of anxiety when I first started. And I remember thinking to myself, can I do this? Is this something that I want to pursue? And like a little voice in my head was like, well, there's no plan B, Sam. Like you don't have a second dream that you could follow. So make it work. And I remember speaking to other tattoo artists and I was like, I'm just not happy with any tattoo I do. I'm always like zooming in on my phone and like just checking everything. And obviously I was an apprentice, so it was friends, family members, and I'd like see the tattoos on them. I'm like, just wish I'd done this differently. And they tell me they're like, yeah, that doesn't go away. Like as long as you tattoo, like you'll always scroll in, zoom in on things. Wish you'd done things different. It's just about taking that negative spin off it and going like, why did I do this? And going, oh well, next time I'll do it like this.
Yeah.
But there was definitely times in like the beginning of the career where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm so glad that I stuck at it.
Is that because of the stress about getting it wrong?
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
people? Because
100%.
because you are going to get judged
Yeah.
immediately. And it's almost like a fine dining chef. Someone's going to go and spend $1,000 in a restaurant, and they go, sorry, I didn't like the salmon.
Yeah.
And you're devastated.
But I mean, even with that, it's like, oh, okay, no problem. Like, I'll get you another salmon. You can't just get someone a new
Yeah.
arm. Like,
Yeah. There's a definite level of jeopardy.
yeah. But I think I've definitely got over that now. Like, I mean, I'd say for the last good couple of years, like my brain doesn't really think about it anymore. I notice a lot of the time because I'm speaking to the clients that my brain just sort of switches off and I'm just like, I'm going to make a nice picture. And then I just clock back in. I'm like, oh, that's someone's arm. Like, I don't think about it anymore, which has really helped my career because I'm not in my own head and thinking like, what if this and what if that. I'm just doing a job to the best of my ability, getting it done, and people are happy with it.
Yeah, and I guess fatigue could sometimes kick in if you're doing loads, Sam. So do you sort of say, listen, I'm not going to do it today because of that?
The most that I do is a 5 to 6 hour sitting. Like I cannot sit there because you imagine like the strain on your back. Like you're hunched over. There's a saying in the tattoo industry where it's crooked spines equal crispy lines. Like if you want those nice crisp lines, there's not really a way to avoid hunching over with like a little shrimp spine. Like that's how that's done. So it is quite physically exhausting in that aspect, but also it can be quite mentally exhausting. Like I was saying before, people come in for like lots of different reasons. So I might have in the morning someone's coming getting like a really sentimental memorial tattoo, and then after they leave and you're listening to their story, trying to empathize with them, and it's quite solemn atmosphere. And then someone comes in, they're 19, first tattoo. Oh, I'm going to get this butterfly. I'm so excited. And you're trying to like match that energy. So you can definitely get like a bit of emotional whiplash. But I love it. Like I've got friends that work in therapy and they're like, your job trying to match that energy is so much more difficult. But I wouldn't change it. Like I love speaking to people. I love hearing stories, whether they're good or bad, trying to be a supporting person. Just vibes.
Yeah, vibes. Hashtag vibes.
Hashtag vibes.
Yeah. And some of the things I've been marveling at are where you sort of see people maybe getting a replacement tattoo.
Cover-ups.
Do like a lot of
I
those.
love cover-ups. I do love cover-ups.
Is that where the most creative has to be because you've got to work with something old? Yeah.
So I used to be really interested in cover-ups. I used to watch a lot of those TV shows where you see people get cover-up tattoos, and I was always really interested in them. And then I remember seeing a couple of tattoos and seeing how they'd been covered, where they just get like black ink, black over it, and then make the shadow sort of work with the tattoo. But I prefer to try and disguise the tattoo rather than cover it. I think it's more creative to do that, and it's a lot more fun. And then obviously for the client, they haven't got to have like a ridiculously large, dark piece. They can still keep it relatively the same size as the original tattoo, and just change it a little bit. I especially love tattooing over like ex-partners' names, because then you get all the gossip as to why they're being covered up.
Ah.
Like, I love doing that. I get like a little kick every time. I'm like, oh, bye, just covering over it.
That's hilarious. So, and I think that probably covering up is a lot better than getting the removal process. I think because there are certain colours you can't get rid of anyway.
So I'm not actually too educated on the laser removal process. I've had one tattoo lasered, just the once. I had one session, so it is multiple sittings to get the laser removal. In my experience, it was a lot more painful than putting the tattoo on there. And like I say, I've only had one session on it, so I've still got quite a bit to go. Some people don't want a cover up; they want it removed completely. And then depending on, like you say, like the pigment, the color, there's more options, less options. But some people don't mind just having another tattoo put on top, or like I say, if it's like an ex's name, you don't really want it gone, but you just want it covered. It does tend to be cheaper and quicker to get a cover up than it is to get the laser removal, and in my opinion, it hurts a lot less.
Yeah.
But laser has its place for certain things.
Yeah. Well, super. I think that's a really good message as well, isn't it? And the other thing, which I'm not sure how long it's been around, but terrible scarring people can have, or breast cancer, for example.
Yeah.
The lives that changes by having beautiful tattoos now.
Yeah.
For example, is must be psychologically life changing. Have you had the opportunity to do it?
Yeah, so like I do a lot of work with the Semicolon project as well. So we take part in it every single year where people get a semicolon tattoo. And it's like a bit of a trend. I wouldn't say trend, but it's like something that people do for mental health, where you get a semicolon because it represents like a new beginning, not a full stop. And there is a foundation that started this like event where every single year tattoo artists all come together all over the country and they tattoo semicolons. I think £15 is the price. So for the £15, the studio doesn't actually make a profit on that. Like, that's done at cost to the studio, but it's about ending stigma, raising awareness. So I take part in that, and obviously a lot of people who struggle with mental health have like stories about self-harm scars. I do a lot of cover-ups on those.
I think I saw I might have this wrong, but I'm sure I saw a photo on your Instagram.
Yeah, no,
recently.
I've got quite a few clients that have scarring. They have like cover-ups to obviously improve their confidence around them. Because I think from my clients in particular, it's things that they did when they were younger, and they're in a different mental space now. So they don't really want the reminder of the dark time. They want to move on and have something that's beautiful that matches where they're at mentally now. So if I can offer that, like, obviously that's something that's really beautiful.
I think that is, out of everything that you've said, honestly, Sam, giving your time to those people to do that will stay with them for the rest of their lives in a different way than just getting a regular tattoo. You know what I mean? I think if there's anything local heroes-y about that, Sam, about what you give back to those people, that's you should be applauded for that.
Well, thank you.
And the reason why it's important is because, well, you don't need me to tell you why it's important, but for the listener, there's one thing having a tattoo, maybe of a lost loved one, but having something that's really going to enhance the way they feel about the body because of this particular issue. That's really local.
It is special. It is definitely special.
Do you have the opportunity to maybe re-meet them again?
Yeah, no. So I've got quite a few clients that they'll come and get a tattoo on like the semicolon day, and then they'll come back and book in something else, or like I'll cover up someone's scar and then they'll come back in and get a tattoo on a different placement. It's quite common that I get to see them again. Like you can sort of see like a change in character. I think people are just grateful to have those things, and it is nice to see that people are like happy with the tattoos. Like, I get a real kick from that, like when I've finished the tattoo and someone looks at it in the mirror and you can see it in their face, and it's like that gives me such like work satisfaction. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, you can get that, you can see that. Even getting one bit of great feedback is great, but that in particular for me ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't it? Just in terms of that. Where look, I think we could go down a whole rabbit hole, Sam, just around the quality of products that you have to use. It's got to be sanitary. You know,
Yeah.
infection is something that you have to really watch. You've got to make sure that you treat the tattoo in the right way once you've had it done. You know, don't just stick it in the sun and don't not bathe it and don't
Yeah.
cover it. You know, there's loads of things that you should be doing. They're things I think that you also get from your place, isn't it? That you get the right advice, use the right creams, for example. Don't use pseudocreme, for example, because it
Yeah.
just absorbs into the ink.
Not great
It's
pseudocreme.
not
I mean,
great, is it? Or Savlon, don't use it because
yeah.
it gets into the colour.
There's a lot of like products. I mean, again, it's different artist to artist. Like a lot of artists will recommend like different things. I personally would not recommend anything like Vaseline or Papanthum, anything like that. That's got. I mean, it's not designed for tattoos. Like one of them is designed for like nappy rash. It's not for tattoos. There's a lot of specific tattoo products. I have favorites. I have least favorites. I always recommend brands that I've used and I've had good results with to my clients. And they smell nice too. Like not like we're like dropping in like there, but they smell nice. I enjoy them. But like you were saying with the whole like things being clean, sanitary, that is such a big part of the tattoo industry. Because it's a vulnerability really. Like if you go in to get a tattoo, it's similar to a medical procedure. Like your skin is being broken, and there's a risk for infection. Not that is potential if it's done properly, but that's a big part of your apprenticeship as well, is like learning how to keep things clean, rewrapping everything. Like I did a training course for semi-permanent makeup a while ago, and I found out that different areas in the country will have different guidelines for their sanitation. I forget where it is, but there's a place in the UK where their council will recommend not wrapping things in cling film because they think it breeds like laziness. Like if you're going to wrap it, then you won't clean it when you take the wrap off. You're just going to put a new wrap over the top of it. So they just advise that you Dettol everything when you're done. I mean, for me, like that's not the way that I was taught, so that gives me a bit of an uncomfortable feeling. But yeah, no, the sanitation is a massive part of it, like very, very important.
Yeah, and I think when anyone's looking for any tattoo place, then I think you go with your gut feel.
Yeah.
You sort of say, this doesn't feel right to me. Get yourself to someone who's qualified.
I definitely do my research. Like I find that's important, is if you have a specific style in mind or a specific tattoo, you don't find a tattoo studio and then give them that design and go hope for the best. Like maybe they'll be good at it, maybe they're not. I'd find someone who is already doing tattoos that are similar to the ones that you like, someone whose personality you like, someone who's got a clean studio. You want to do the safe checks before you get there, because there's a lot of horror stories. I do a lot of cover-ups. A lot of people come in, tell me like some not good things about other studios that they visited. And that could all be avoided by just like sort of doing your checks first and really thinking about it before just jumping in on impulse.
Yeah. Sam, I think again from what you're doing, I love the positivity. I think that as I was saying, when you run a business, there are certain stresses for that, as well as getting on with doing the tattoos in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think I'm hoping that everybody who's listening really gets a sense that you are highly skilled.
Thank you.
You are great in the community. You are giving back. You're running your shop. It is you. It is Sam.
Very much.
It's a very serious business. So don't let that put anybody off in any way. It's not about that. It's about there is a serious person who's dedicated and passionate about what they do. They're highly skilled in what they do. They care about it, and you're not going to leave there.
No, because obviously like people's tattoos, that's priority. Like I want people to be happy. It's very, very rare that anyone's ever wanted anything adjusting. People tend to be 9 times out of, that's not like that's even too high. Like 1 in 1,000 times, maybe someone goes, oh, can we just use a little bit darker? But besides from that, like that's my main concern, is people being happy with their tattoos. And I've got clients now that I've done tattoos on years ago that was maybe like fine line, and now they want it more bold because their styles have changed, and I'm more than happy to do that. Or I've had clients get things reworked because it no longer fits their aesthetic. And I always say to people that I would much rather people be happy with their tattoos. Like my feelings wouldn't be hurt if they wanted to make adjustments.
Sure.
I always give people the opportunity for that, because it is your tattoo. You're going to carry it. If it's not exactly what you want, let's make it exactly what you want.
Well, I know a couple of people who are looking for somebody. I think one for a cover up and one where they're not sure. It's like
I'll have to give you some
their
business
very
cards.
first one. So I'll definitely be recommending them to you from absolutely. There's 100%.
Thank you.
Just to remind, do you know what? This has flown by, hasn't it? It's absolutely flown by, this podcast already. But look, remind everybody where they can find you and all the right handles to get you on.
So we are based in Warrington Town Centre, 25 Ryland Street. We are on Google Maps, so you can find us on Google Maps. It's Sam Small Inc. Our Instagram is Sam Small Inc., but we have underscores. You can see it from the little black heart logo that we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
I think on TikTok it's Sam Small Tattoo. And then Facebook, Sam Small Inc. If you type in Sam Small Inc. in any of these, it'll probably come up. Little black heart, little white eye in the middle of it. That's me. Yeah. Stunning.
Stunning. Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you
are
for having
an
me.
absolute star. Loved having you here. Best of luck for the future. Please keep going.
Yeah, definitely. There's no end in this train. Like, there's no breaks on this train.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just leaves me to say, Sam, that you are a local hero.
Thank you.
Cheers.